You can now support Ghost Maps on Patreon. Simply look for We Are HANTU or click the link in the description. Inspired by an account from Mervyn. Ghost Maps. Entry 135, Pulau Tekong, Singapore. The drink stall auntie at this Tiong Bahru coffee shop arrives with my bottle of mineral water. I pop 2 paracetamols into my mouth and wash them down with a gulp of my drink. I don't think these are going to help. They haven't been helping much since my last interview a week ago when this migraine first started, but I take them anyway. At first, I wasn't sure if I still wanted to be here tonight. What was the alternative though? Meds haven't helped. Rest hasn't helped either. Maybe this interview might at least distract me for a while. I'm wincing at the still present ache when Joey cautiously approaches me. I apologize for my pained expression and assure him that it's just a slight headache and that I'm happy to continue. He takes a seat and orders a drink of his own, a teh alia. Joey works in finance, but confesses that he doesn't care for it very much. Still, it pays for holidays with my wife, he says, so I can live with it. He seems like the kind of man with a blissfully straightforward life. Nothing exciting to share beyond maybe an extra busy week at work, and he would be absolutely fine with that. Except that Joey does have one experience that breaks from his otherwise ordinary world. It happened during my BMT, he says. I reach for my recorder, but wince once more. The migraines seem to be getting worse. Joey asks again if I'm okay, and I can only nod at first. Don't worry about me, I say, eventually forcing a smile. I finally place my recorder on the table, switch it on, and ask Joey to start from the beginning. Joey was in BMT, or Basic Military Training, for Singapore's national servicemen back in December 2003. Like the rest of his life, the first 2 weeks of BMT didn't hold any surprises for him. Shaved heads and new friends, exhausting exercises and regimental routines. A week of training and weekends that always felt too short. I got along fine with everyone else in my platoon, he says. But I preferred whenever I could to keep to myself. Joey tells me that he didn't really take part in things like the mostly harmless birthday sabos or anything like that. I guess even though I didn't have any problems with anyone, there was a bit of a wall between me and the rest, he says. It was that invisible wall, however, that might have made a key difference in his BMT. Eventually, it was time for Joey's platoon to spend 5 days and 4 nights outfield in Pulau Tekong's forested areas. Those first 3 days, Joey was probably more tired than he had ever been in his entire life. Sure, almost everyone seemed prepared to slog it out and dig their shell scrapes or charge around during fire movements. But that didn't change the fact that I had never pushed my body quite like that before. By the third night, Joey didn't care that his shell scrape was an unevenly dug mess. He was ready to fall asleep on his feet. In fact, He was just about to doze off when he heard something from the trees off to the right of him. He ignored it at first, his tiredness playing tricks on his mind, he reasoned. But then he heard it again, and it was getting closer. It was a woman cackling, he says. Joey looked around in the darkness to see if anyone else had noticed. Most of his platoon mates were fast asleep. Those who were awake were talking quietly among themselves. He wanted to ask them if they heard the cackling too. But there was that invisible wall. And if he was being honest, on some level, as a sense of dread crept in, he already knew their answer. He was the only one who could hear it. He turned back to the direction from which that unnerving laughter was coming. Among the trees, he could make out a shape, small and circular, maybe slightly bigger than a tennis ball. It was speeding towards him, and Joey soon realized it was the source of the cackling. As the shape emerged from the trees, even amidst the gloom of night, Joey could finally see what it was. A human head. A shrunken head. Its skin was leathery and stretched, contorting its features in horrifying ways. Its scant, long black hair was a wild mess. Its cracked lips curved into an unnaturally large grin and quivered as its cackles grew deafening. Joey covered his ears, darted his eyes around, desperate to find someone else who saw what he saw, heard what he had heard. No one. At that moment, I felt so alone, he says. He can't seem to find his words. So I offer a suggestion. Give up, I say. He nods, staring at the ground. That's when I realize that Joey's idyllic life hides something a lot deeper than I had initially expected. A shame and hopelessness that drives him towards the safest choices. I wonder if maybe telling this story might be opening old wounds for him. Wounds that might not have totally healed. I would have asked him if he wanted to stop, but my migraines keep me from finding my own words. He takes a moment. Then, with the practice of having done so for decades, he pushes his feelings down and carries on. The head sped towards Joey, and all he could do was pray. He couldn't take his eyes off the entity, couldn't bear to be surprised by whatever it had planned for him. Just as the head was mere centimeters away from him, though, it just disappeared. Not in a puff of smoke, not in some grand explosion. Like it was never there. Joey never finished his outfield. The next day, he fell violently ill. He was taken to the medical center, then back to his bunk to rest. At first, it felt like a stomach flu of some kind. But then he started noticing black hairs among his throw-up. He knew that this wasn't some ordinary bug. I didn't know what to do, he says. I don't know what I would have done, how to have fixed this if a couple of the guys hadn't approached me first. Despite that invisible wall, Joey's platoon mates, freshly returned from outfield, were concerned for him. One of them, a guy named Colin, asked him whether anything strange had happened outfield. Joey seemed taken aback by Colin's question, as if he already knew that this wasn't just a flu too. Later, I found out that Colin's family has experience with this sort of thing, he says. That night, just before lights out, Colin prayed over Joey. They were prayers that Joey had never heard before, but he admits that he's never been the most culturally aware person. Whatever language or religion they were from, Colin's quiet, rhythmic chants put Joey to sleep. When he awoke the next morning, he felt so much better. I thank Joey for his story as he finishes his te alia. I have 1 or 2 follow-up questions, but I can no longer focus. Take care, he tells me, before he stands up and leaves. I take deep breath after deep breath for a minute after. I know that I'm not going to be able to verify Joey's story. Not in the condition I'm in. But I think about the other entities I have met recently and what they've been insinuating. I think about how my doctor told me that there's nothing physically wrong with me. This god-awful migraine doesn't allow me to take any comfort in that, though. I stand up to leave, but I suddenly collapse to the ground. Other patrons try to help me up, but I wave them away. Maybe there isn't something wrong with me physically, but something is wrong. I decide to head back home, to rest for another week or so. If I feel any better after that, it's time I paid an old friend a visit. If you want to discover more of Southeast Asia's other side, subscribe now and follow us on social media. You can also be one of our supporters on Patreon. Look for We Are HANTU or click the links in the description. Ghost Maps is a HANTU production created by Kyle Ong and Wayne Ray, with art direction by Jolene Lim, and recorded on Audio Technica mics.